Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second video in the Lunch and Learn series about Git and GitHub. So this video is going to focus on making branches in Git. Something that I talked about a little bit in the first video, mostly just that it was a thing that was going to happen in the future. Now's the time that we're going to learn about that. So what Git allows us to do is to have multiple lines of development going on at a time that are each distinct from each other. So for example, up here I have master. That is the default branch that is created when you initialize a Git repository. So I went ahead and made a file and had a little bit of work done in it beforehand. Let's go ahead and open it up. So we can see that it's just a very basic Hello World program in C++. Now, we want to keep this development going on. But let's say that we want to try something new. We want to add a new feature. But we don't want to mess up what we already have. Git allows us to make a branch. Now if I do git branch, you'll see all the branches that are made. However, if I do git branch with a parameter, it makes a new branch. So git branch by itself will list all the possible branches, including, as you can see by the star and the color change, which branch we are currently on. If we pass it a string, a name, it will make a new branch with that name. Now, just like we could check out different versions of our code from the git log, we can check out branches using the checkout command. So let's switch to this branch. So it shows that we switched. If I do git log, you see that we have everything from the point where we branched. One of the things that's really nice about Git branches is that it will keep common functionality up until the point where you split. So imagine that you're going down a road and then the road forks. Well, the road is the same no matter if you go to the left or to the right until that fork. Same kind of thing here. So let's go ahead and make some changes into this file. So all I'm going to do is tell it to take a command line parameter. If you don't know what I'm doing here, that's totally fine because this is not a course on C++. It is a course on Git. So I don't necessarily expect you to understand what all is going on here. So I've made some changes. I'm going to go ahead and save them and exit out of Vim Editor. Now, let's do git status. We see that we have a modified file. I want to go ahead and keep those changes. So I'm going to git add to put the file into the staging area. And then I'm going to go ahead and check the status one more time. We'll see that we have changes to be committed. So let's go ahead and commit those, adding a message. Changed the program to take a command line parameter is how I'll abbreviate that. So let's go ahead, check out our git log, and we see that we have the change made here. It's made by me with my updated email as opposed to the first video. The date, the time, the message, all that jazz. Now let's go ahead and go back to our main branch, which is the master branch. Now let's check out the log. We can see that the third commit that we made on development branch is not here. And if we print out the file, we see that we do not have the changes made in the other branch. Git makes it very easy to have these separate, isolated branches of work, so that way you can keep different features away from each other. But let's say that we really like that feature. We really like having a command line parameter, and we want to put it into our main code, or this master branch. Well, what Git allows us to do is this thing called merging. And you take one branch and merge it, combine it into another. So we're going to go over how to do that right now. So I've been doing work on the development branch, and I want to merge it into the master branch. So I'm going to stay on the master branch. I'm going to do git merge development. So let's talk about this syntax a little bit. So we have git, which prefaces all our commands. We have the merge command. Now, why we are using the development string here, the development branch, is that you are saying merge this branch, in this case the development branch, into the branch I am currently on, or in this case the master branch. So whenever you're merging, make sure that you are on the branch you want the changes to be incorporated into, and then you merge, passing the name of the branch that you want to take the changes from. So we can see that it did some additions, it did some subtractions, does that in nice symbols here, as well as a little bit more verbose explanation here. Let's go ahead and check out the log. Alright, I'm still on the master branch, but we can see that this commit has been moved from the development branch into the master branch. If I print out the file again, we have the changes. So that's something really, really nice about Git, and it's very easy compared to some other version control softwares. So now you might be thinking, alright, that's great and all, but how exactly do I want to use these branches? So I'm going to pull up a nice little article that will be in the description for this video. So there are these things in Git called Git Workflows. And it's just some ways that people have decided to use branches to really streamline their workflow. So this one is called the centralized workflow, and it pretty much is exactly what I just did. You have one master branch, and you can have some features, but all the work goes into the master branch. So the next one that we have is the feature branch workflow, which is a little bit more complicated. Let's see if I can find. Here it is. Alright, so now what happens is we have the master branch, and people will work on different features, and then once the feature is ready, you can see that there are multiple commits represented by circles in this branch. Once that feature is done, it will be merged into the master branch. So as opposed to this centralized workflow, where all the different commits are put into the master branch, the feature work branch flow has a different branch for each feature, and only once the feature is done will you merge it back into the master branch. Now this is the final workflow that I'll talk about in the video. You are more than welcome to read through the rest of the options and some of the other topics listed over here. And this is the one that I really like to use. It's called the Git flow workflow. Now, how this tends to work is you have multiple different branches for multiple features. See if I can get down to the final map. I passed it, didn't I? Here we go. So we can see in this diagram that we have a master branch, hotfix, release, develop, all these different kind of branches that are happening. So let's walk a little bit through this map. So this branch right here is our master branch. And notice how it has different versions and very, very few commits. That is because this branch is only used when we have a ready-to-go version of our code. It's merged into the master, and then that is deployed however you choose to deploy. We also have a hotfix branch, which is when you have a really bad error, a really bad bug that you need to fix right away. So notice how we branch off of the master, we fix it, and then we put it right back into the master because that must be a critical bug. Now down here, we have this purple branch, and that is where our main development goes. So you can see that it kind of just goes on and on and on its own. However, we have a point over here where we make a release branch. This just means that we're at a point in our development where we're pretty good to make a release. So we might branch off just a little bit to do some final preparation and then merge it into the master branch. But only at those specific points will we take the development branch and move it into the master branch. Otherwise, it just goes on its own as you're developing. Now down here, just like in the feature workflow, we have these feature branches. So you do some work, once it's done, you merge it back, in this case, into development. Or you don't merge it back in at all. It's a feature you don't want anymore. Now in using Git, you don't necessarily want to ever delete anything. So you might have some lone branches that don't reconnect back into your different workflows here, these different branches that are used. So it can just kind of hang off by itself, but it still needs to be there. This is the workflow that I really like to use in my own personal development, but there are a lot of other ones that you can use, and you can make up your own. If you have a branch that you don't know what to do with, and you're like, oh, well, I have all this code, I have these branches, how do I want to do that? Feel free to make up the one that works best for you. What's nice about Git is that it's very flexible. It just provides some base features, some very powerful features, but still basic nonetheless. You can choose how best to use them. So now you know a little bit about workflows and a little bit about branches. In the previous video, we've covered some of the basics of Git, and in the third and final video upcoming, we'll be talking about this service called GitHub. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.